Welcome to All Things Cybersecurity. Thanks so much for joining us for today's discussion. I'm Sophia Goodwin. I will be your moderator for today. And whether you're watching from YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching from, chime in the chat with your questions and comments. And Daniel and our guest are going to get to them a little bit later in the show. That's pretty much all I've got for my opening spiel. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it to the man of the hour, Daniel Lowrie.
Hey, how's it going, Sophie? And how are you good folks out there doing today? You know, we don't hang out enough. We should hang out more.
Surely we don't. Surely we don't hang out.
We do not spend enough face-to-face time.
No.
But we should. We
I feel
should.
like I never see you anymore.
I know. It's weird. It's weird. I don't spend enough face time with these good folks out there either. So I'm glad to see everyone here today. Thanks for joining us. And guess who is going to join us today as our special guest? I have a real treat for us today. You may have heard of a little company out there. It's making its way up the charts. A little piece called Red Siege. That's right. If you are not familiar with Red Siege, you are absolutely welcome. Red Siege is an amazing pen testing security consultant company. They do just about everything you can think of when it comes to the security side of things. So if you need some of that, you know where to go. And they have great online resources for you as well. Listening to their podcast, their YouTube channel, their blog, you name it. Plenty of great stuff out there. And one of the main big dogs over at Red Siege, I happened to wrangle him up over at Wild West Hackin' Fest. He gave a talk on developing malware for red team and penetration testing. It was a really interesting talk. And I pulled him off the side. I was like, Mike, his name is Mike Saunders. Let me go ahead and give you that right there. Good old Mike Saunders said, Mike, real quick, man, you had a great talk. I'd love to have you on the show. What do you think about that? He said, you know what? Sign me up. So today, our treat, our special guest is the one, the only Mr. Mike Saunders. Mike, how's it going today, my man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. What we want to know is, how are you? We want to know a little bit more about Mike. We want to hear from you. We're going to pick your brain today. Are you down for that action?
Absolutely.
I cannot wait. You can see, here's Mike here. Here's my good friend. We got the giant monitor here, and I can, oh, honey, you got a little bit there. Let me get that off. There you go. You're looking much better. You're on TV. You gotta present, right? You gotta present. Well, Mike, what we're gonna do today, and we kind of briefed you on this, and the good folks out there that are watching, is we are gonna take some questions from the audience for, well, until about an hour from now. That's our plan anyway. So if you've got questions, we want to attempt to answer them for you. And I kind of put this out on the socials there and said, if you've ever wanted to sit down with an experienced penetration tester, somebody that does this day in and day out, has seen it all, God knows he probably has, and ask them questions about what it's like to be in the job, how do you get in, what are some of the skills I would need to know, what are some of the things that I need to be doing to better myself, well, now's your opportunity. So definitely throw your questions into our chat room, and that will go to Sophia. Sophia will let us know when the questions pop up, and she will ask them to us. We will attempt to do the answering. We're going to lean heavy on Mike today because that's what we got him here for, but I'll do my best to lend some insights of my own as well. And without further ado, I say we get this party started. Now, I would like to start with the opening question because it's a question I like to ask. I'm going to ask you, Mike. It's a two-part question. Are you satisfied with your current skill level? And if not, what are you doing to take yourself to the next level skill-wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the answer is never satisfied with the skill level. I feel like if you're not learning, then you're just becoming a fossil. So I'm constantly trying to learn new techniques, dialed into what's happening on Twitter, following things on LinkedIn, seeing new posts about new techniques that are coming out, new research about new vulnerabilities. You know, the Outlook reminder message thing that just came up the other day. Looking at those things, picking them apart, how do they work, understanding how can we use this in our testing, and just how do those things relate to other things that I already know about, and then add that to the catalog of things that I can use in my tests.
You know, what's interesting about your answer to me, Mike, is that it did not contain a lot of like maybe, and I'm sure you end up doing this from time to time, but formal training. You're just kind of sucking things in through your, threat feed straw, as it were, and learning from what's going on in kind of real time, and then just taking those bits and pieces and figuring out where do they fit, how do they work, and how can I incorporate that into this, like you said, the skills you already have. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Over the past, not this past year, but previous winter, I spent some time going through the Sector 7 malware development courses. And I think that once you reach a certain level of education or experience, you start getting to the point that there aren't a lot of courses that that really apply to you. You can take a course and one little pieces of that is something that you haven't learned about, but everything else you've already covered that. So it gets harder the more experience you have to get more formal education or take those kinds of courses. So it becomes more just what's out there, understanding the new threats that are coming out, the new vulnerabilities, the new research that people are releasing, and following up on those, because it's harder to find courses that give you a lot of benefit versus when you're new and you don't have much knowledge. Any course you take has a wide variety of information that you probably haven't had exposure to. And not to say that as you're more advanced that you still don't benefit from those courses where you're already covered topics, because there's so many different ways of looking at the same problem. And you may have approached doing OSINT work and enumerating users. You may have approached it from this focus for your entire career, and all of a sudden someone comes over here with something completely new that you haven't heard about. It's still OSINT, you're still doing it, you're very experienced with it, but you just weren't experienced with that thing. So you're always benefiting, always learning.
That is very insightful, Mike. I've experienced the exact same thing myself, where you're looking at courses that are available from different areas and just seeing I mean, I'm a trainer. That's what I do. I train people into learning the skills they need to get into this line of work. So I'm constantly trying to evaluate what I'm doing with other people's things and going, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I should incorporate something like that. And now that I kind of have that, like you kind of put it out there, that basic library of skills that are in like the IT Pro TV library, I'm starting to now try to focus in on more niche things so that we have more expansive things for people that once they get past that, they can go, well, I still have good things that I can learn. So I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly trying to make that into new skills for other people to learn so that they can. And Sophia's been a part of that. We've had a lot of fun making different series. Like we did a AWS pen testing series. We've done an IoT pen testing series, just trying to bring in every little weird niche thing that we can think of. So I'm doing my best to make sure that there is something available. You're not left without a witness with the more niche things that are out there. So it's cool that you're seeing that as well. Now, that said, I know that Sophia says she's giving me that look like,
chomping at the bit over here.
Hey, there's people in the chat room. I just wanted to make sure I give you plenty of time. I don't want to. All right. Now that the time has elapsed.
Time to think of a question.
Yes.
And articulate it properly. Okay. Well, we do have a couple here that I can pull from. So we'll start with, this question comes from John. He's watching over at YouTube. He asks, what qualities and skills make for a good red teamer?
Ooh, that is a great question. Now, Mike, as you've worked in the red sphere for a bit of your career there, what would you say is those skills? I'll probably throw on that as well. Probably qualities and maybe even personality traits that could lend to being a good red teamer. What would you say?
So that's a good question. And I'm going to start out by making a little bit of a distinction. We can think about the term red team comes from like the military, and you've got a team of people and people are cross-trained, but you select people for those teams for their specific skill sets. That's less applicable to what most of us do. Some orgs do have they have red teams where they are the fishing person and that's what they do. And there's a person who's just payload development. But for the average tester, we'll call it red teaming, whether it's, pen testing. Let's say that you need to be more broadly focused. You can't just be specialized. And a quality that you can't study is just curiosity. For one, when you run into an error message, you're testing a web app and you put a certain input into a field and it gives you a response. A lot of people, you ask them like, what was the error message? Like, I don't know, there was an error message. But someone who is a good red teamer, a good tester sees that error message or sees that response or that behavior and goes, what was that about? Why did it respond that way when it responded this way when I gave it a different input? And that to me is a quality that makes someone good, because they don't even have to have a good technical skill set if they already have that. Why did that happen? I can teach them the technical skill set. So that is the first part of something that I think makes people really good. Um, Actual skill sets, um, being able to learn on the fly, because you are not going to be an expert in everything you see. Every test I go to, I run into some kind of technology, whether it's a program, some type of piece of hardware, whatever it is that I haven't seen before. So I have to be able to go out and find out what that is, read the manuals, read information about it, and understand it very quickly so I can learn how either to abuse it or break into it, um, and use it to my advantage. And so I need to be able to learn very quickly on my feet, uh, without a formal training program. I need to be able to go find that information and make use of it. So that is a skill that I think makes for a very good red teamer. Um, it's not strictly necessary to be able to program, and you don't have to be able to write big, complex applications, but having some level of comfort doing scripting, whether you're doing some bash scripting or writing some Python or PowerShell, will make your job much easier. There's a lot of things that you're going to want to automate. There's a lot of times where you're going to have to process data, and being able to do that programmatically will greatly, you know, ease your life. Being able to do more advanced programming when you want to be able to write exploits and you need to be able to modify your shellcode loaders to get around EDR, for instance, that is another very good skill set that can be helpful to you. Not strictly necessary, but it is helpful.
Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me. I think on I think on YouTube or something. They were telling me how Metasploit is junk because it doesn't work. All the payloads just get busted. And I'm like, well, yeah, it just comes out of the box like that. And it's an open source free tool. You got to understand that the security vendors are going to go, oh, there's a free hacking tool out there. We should download that and run as many things as we can and signature the mess out of it, so that our scanners will pick up on that stuff, so that a threat could not use said free tool to gain access into systems. I'm like, you have to then kind of grow beyond that. Okay, learn how to use the tool, and now grow beyond that and learn how to make the tool the thing you need it to be. So people still use Metasploit, they just don't use it like it comes out of the box for the most part. So
Absolutely.
gaining,
if you're,
yeah.
You're familiar with Mubix. I don't know if you've ever spoken to Mubix, Rob Fuller, but he was just tweeting about that the other day, talking about how he uses Metasploit on so many of his tests, not necessarily as like running the exploits, but using it as a management tool, because it has so many different protocol handlers that if you need to speak a protocol, it can probably do it for you.
Yeah,
You
and
just need to
correct me
learn
if
how to
I'm
use it.
wrong, but like Armitage is created by Raphael Mudge, who does Cobalt Strike, right? And
Yeah, he was a creator of
yeah.
he was a creator of Cobalt Strike, another tool that people say, oh, Cobalt Strike's dead, but it is much more extensible than people think, and you can customize it and make it still work against modern defense systems. And they just released 4.8 the other day, which came out with a lot of great new features. Like they're breathing life into that platform. These tools are still there if you're willing to get your hands a little dirty, dig under the hood, and change things up. Yeah, they definitely work for you.
Well, I hope the you good folks out there are listening hear what Mike is saying. Do not be afraid to spin these things up. It's nice to have labs. We have them here, and they are great, especially if you want to just do some quick and dirty testing. But there is an infinite amount of knowledge to be gained through the experience of actually digging into the thing, making it work, watching it fail, figuring out why it failed, and then overcoming that failure into the next level of your capabilities of working with said tool. That is one of the best key things that you can do to help build your skill set and your understanding of the things that we do in this cybersecurity world we love so much. All right, that said, I know Sophia's got us another question, so let's jump back in. Let's get this thing going.
You ever considered a career in motivational speaking? Wow, you got me pumped up now.
She's ready.
I'm ready to go. This question comes to us also from YouTube. This is from Alan. Alan asks, for someone who's going from musician to pen tester, which certificates would you recommend during this transition? Correct me if I'm wrong, but Dan and Mike, you guys are both musicians, right?
We are both musicians.
So you would know a thing or two about this.
We know a thing or two because, well, we'll leave it there so we don't get a violation.
Copyright strike.
Yeah, a cease and desist shows up immediately. So, Mike, yeah, you are a musician, right? We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
And I as well enjoy musicians. So, but if it was there ever a time where you were a musician and that was how you made your money and supported yourself in this world, and then moved into pen testing? What's your story there?
So I went to school as a music performance major. Playing. I played trombone, but I played all the low brass instruments. I played in the symphony. I played in the jazz band. I played in the concert band. And my goal was to be in the President's Own Marine Band. That was my goal. I never thought computers could be a career. Fast forward, at some point I realized, I'm not going to make very much money doing this, and I don't want to do it as a job. And I happened into computer work, and I've been here ever since. And I love it. And I have played in bands since, and I love it. What would make someone who's going from musician to pen tester good? Creativity. You need to be able, it's, especially if you think about like jazz, right? And you're playing a solo, you're responding to what is happening at that situation. You're not playing this solo that you have memorized, and the drummer comes up with a different groove and you just keep going with that same thing you're doing. You're not doing very well. But if you react to what's happening and understand the situation and be like, adapt to it, that's a lot like pen testing. We don't have scripts that we follow saying that like this is exactly the test you do in the order you do it, and that's the only thing we do. We have methodologies that we've written so that we can be reproducible and consistent across our testers. But we're also very adaptable. If in the middle of something we see, all of a sudden see, oh hey, what's this thing over here? Let's focus on that. So I think that's something that musicians are good at, and artists in general, in that responding to whatever stimulus is going on and then incorporating that into what they're doing. As far as certificates, man, that is such a broad question, right? There are so many things that can be beneficial to you. I like to think of penetration testing as really just advanced system administration, because any good system administrator, they've been in it a while, they want to make their job easier, and so they figure out ways to automate things or shortcuts to make things easier for them. And if you understand those things, you understand how a system administrator might think, and therefore you can try to get in their head. So if you know Linux system administration, if you know SQL databases, for instance, if you understand SQL databases and you understand how those SQL queries work and what's happening on the back end, it makes it easier to visualize if you're testing a web app and you have SQL injection. You can now be like, oh, okay, so this is happening from this table and this is happening over here, and this is how I do this kind of query. Okay, now I can make sense of that situation. So learning as much as possible definitely helps. Like if I had two candidates that came to me and one had no certifications and a set of experience doing, I don't know, CTFs in some school, and another person came with those same set of experiences, schooling and CTFs, but they had Linux Plus and Network Plus and Security Plus. Well, that gives them a leg up. Not necessarily going to get you a pen testing job, but it gives you a leg up over someone who has similar experience, and it tells me that you have a deeper understanding of those systems. Moving beyond that, starting to get into the offensive side of certifications, there are things like the Burp Suite Academy. I believe they've got the Burp Suite Academy or Portswigger, and they've got a test that comes out with that you can take for web app testing. There's the CRTO, Certified Red Team Operator course and certification. Of course, OffSec has some great certifications there. And of course, Daniel, I think you can talk a lot about kind of certifications and education that's out there.
Oh man, the field of certifications as far as offensive security, red team, penetration testing, ethical hacking has just busted so wide open here recently within the last maybe 3 years or so that they're so good. So many of them, like you mentioned Portswigger, it's the Burp Suite Certified Professional, I think is their certification. A phenomenal, right? And a lot of really great training there as well. And it's free. Hack the Box just came out with their, they've got a few certifications, if maybe one or two, but they're really starting to blow up. You've got Heath Adams doing the TCM security thing with PNPT, and they just came out with another one. I think they're coming out with another offensive team. You've got blue team security stuff with like blue team security, blue team online. Great stuff there. There's so many good ones, and I love that we're seeing the offensive world, the red team world, go practical as much as possible. And just when you think like, OSCP is kind of the OG, right? They come out with, we have a 24-hour exam, another 24 hours to write a report. It's really like a pen test. And you're like, oh, this is awesome. So you take PWK and you go take your OSCP and you pass, and you're just like, and it has a lot of credibility on the street. And then you see EJPT come out and ECPPT from eLearn Security and INE, they start busting stuff out. You're like, oh, this is like a real competitor to OSCP. And everybody starts trying to make it, well, no, this is a 36-hour exam. And now, PNPT is like 5 days exam, and CRTO comes out, and they're just trying to make it as ultra realistic as possible. So honestly, I think anybody that's in the know, yeah, HR might not know about these things, but hiring people that would have hiring power that are hiring for these teams, they are going to know about these exams. So you can, in my estimation, you can kind of offset not having a certification with demonstrating skills, kind of like you were talking about, Mike, and putting that stuff on your resume. Look, I'm doing all these CTFs. I have not just familiarity with X, Y, or Z tool, but experience with X, Y, or Z tool. It's always a really great idea to, when you're building stuff, to help you complete those CTFs or help you learn and do something that is security specific, and you're building a tool for that, throw that in a GitHub repo, right? Building out your GitHub,
100%.
Making yourself available online, showing that you have skills, and then backing that monkey up with a certification. And really, regardless of who it comes from, that is going to be the 1-2 punch, kind of to your point, Mike, that if I've got skills, that's great. And I might even be able to get a job with that. But if I have both in hand, it just becomes kind of a no-brainer for the hiring managers to go, oh, excellent.
Yeah.
You have the skills I'm looking for. And not only that, but you can kind of like prove that you've had some of these skills because you've got all these tools you built, you got all these blogs you've done, you've been to conferences, you're rubbing elbows with people in the business, and you've got certifications in hand. Welcome to the club. You start on Monday.
Yeah, you just read my brain because those were things I wanted to talk about. The certifications are great, but that real world experience, and that is something that when we're hiring, we look at. What conferences did you go to? Like you said, I ran into this guy at Wild West Hackin' Fest. Oh, this woman came up and talked to me after my talk at KernelCon. Okay, great. I know that you're out there, and I know that you're actually participating. And then I can look at your GitHub and see that, oh, you're not just forking projects, you're actively writing code. And I can get an idea of like, can you develop? Do you understand the concepts? All of those things make you a much more well-rounded candidate.
I'm going to agree with you there, Mike. That's just how we're going to roll today. All right, let's get another question. Sophia, what do we got on the hopper?
We have got plenty. This one actually comes from Alejandro. He's watching over at LinkedIn. Alejandro asks, what is the technical path for certifications to get for an entry-level position in cybersecurity? So I think he's asking, what certifications would you recommend to start entry-level, I think.
That's a good. I want to hear Mike's on this. Obviously, I've got my own musings, but Mike, as far as what you know about certifications and the certification courses and exams that you have taken, what's the one that you were like, man, this one really gets it. Forget about it being like HR, gatekeeping kind of bypass. Whether I don't care about the relevancy. What do you like? What was the test you were like? These people get it.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't think I've got a great answer to it, just because of the conversation we just had about all that, those other pieces of experience that add into that. But I would say for an entry level position, are you coming at it from I already have a job in IT and I want to transition into cybersecurity, or do I have no experience at all and I want to get right into cybersecurity? I think that's a harder path, simply because cybersecurity, many aspects of it is a little bit more specialized knowledge. And I'm going to add to that I'm talking about what I do, offensive security. Um, that doesn't apply to all things cybersecurity, because you've got the policy people that are out there and they're doing important work, and that's a different area of cybersecurity that I can't speak to. I don't have nearly as much experience there. But talking about from, let's say, maybe offensive security standpoint, getting again those something like network plus, security plus, you know some of the intro foundational Windows courses that Microsoft offers. They offer some certifications there. AWS cloud is blowing up right now. So if you can have, whether it's a GCP cert or AWS or one of the Microsoft cloud certs, like those kind of things are very in demand, and that is going to give you quite a bit of an edge. I see recruiters all the time looking for cloud experience. So if you don't have something you want to specialize in, like, take a look at the cloud. I think that is a great way to get your foot in the door quickly.
Talking about reading each other's minds, Mike, that is the exact advice that I give out almost on a daily basis. People contact me on LinkedIn. Hey, I see you're into cybersecurity, kind of got a thing going on. How I'm coming from, I'm a Kroger's driver or I'm whatever, and I want to move into cybersecurity. It seems to be a bit of a flooded market right now. What would help set me apart? And I'm like, go into cloud. Get into cloud. Start getting AWS certs, get Azure, do whatever you like. Doesn't matter. I'm kind of an AWS guy, so I tend to push them. Go get a couple of AWS certs and then bill yourself as a cloud administrator, get a junior cloud admin job. And then when you get on that team, start going, I'm really into security as well. Start telling your team about how much you like security. Start anything that I can do to help the security efforts of our cloud platform. Please, recruit me. I'll do anything you want me to do as long as I can be a part of the big show. And then once they see that fire and determination, they're going to let you start touching stuff. And once that happens, that means I have experience. What kind of experience, you ask? Hands-on experience. That's right. And now I can move up the ladder and start becoming the cloud security administrator because, hey, I actually literally have a friend of mine who we randomly bumped into each other, who we became friends. He was like, I know you from LinkedIn. We're connections on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, that's cool. How's it going? And he started telling me about his job, and he's like, he really wants to transition to cybersecurity. And I just started giving him this exact same stuff. That was about maybe 6-7 months ago. He is now the security administrator for his company because he did exactly what I told him to do, which was tell everybody you like security, tell them you want to be a part of any security thing you can be a part of. And then they're going to know when it comes down to, we need a security person. Well, so, Bob over here really enjoyed security. Why don't we just make Bob do it? And you are there. You have it's just a transition from one thing to the other. Plus, I like how you brought in the idea of having that foundational knowledge. I've seen the meme, and you probably have as well, of someone trying to take like 8 steps up a flight of stairs at one time, and they put like, hardware, operating systems, networking, security basics, and then pen testing. And you're trying to make this big step. It's like, there are some people that can do that. But for every example you give me of someone that did that, I'll give you 100,000 examples of people that didn't, because it's not practical to do.
One thing I would like to add to this conversation that's not certifications, and Ian on my team is going to hate me for saying this, but do not discount the importance of networking. And I'm not talking about Ethernet and TCP and IP. I'm talking about human connection. Most places that you're applying a lot of jobs, there's not even a human looking at your resume. There's some algorithm that's processing your resume and looking to see if you have the right words in there. And if you don't have the right words, you're not even getting into the pile. But if you know someone who works at that company and you know they're hiring, you can say, hey, I see you're hiring. I'd like to apply for this position. Could you put me in touch with a hiring manager? And you can send the resume directly. And then they'll say, oh, we need to have you send it through the system. But now that they're looking for you, they will pull it out of the pile that it's been sorted out of and was going to be discarded. Knowing people, right or wrong, that networking is critically important, I think, for most people. Maybe it should be the most qualified candidate, but the most qualified candidate might not have written the best resume. And if they know people, that will help them. So whether it's your local DEF CON group meetup or it's your local ISC squared chapter, OWASP has chapters all over the place. There's Discords. Red Siege has a Discord. We'd love for you to come and join our Discord and ask questions and learn with us. Bunch of different companies have Discords. There's Slacks out there. There's Twitter, that you can be part of and actively tweeting there. Don't discount the importance of person-to-person contact in your job search. Even if they don't have a way of getting you in, they'll get you exposure to jobs that you may not have otherwise heard about. Like, oh, hey, I know that this company is hiring for someone right now for an intro level position. You should talk to them.
Truth bombs.
You know what
by
they
Mike
say.
Thumb.
Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
That's exactly right. And in this business, it's funny, it seems like because cybersecurity is so popular that there's just all this mass of people. And don't get me wrong, worldwide, there's quite a few people in cybersecurity. But as you start to drill down into things like offensive security, ethical hacking, pen testing, red teaming, and that cone starts to shrink quite a bit, there's not as many people as you would think. And we all kind of talk to each other. And if you are the kind of person that's like, yeah, you got a bunch of mad skills, but you are not someone anybody wants to work with, right? You have to make it known. You have to be the right kind of person. You got to be someone that people want to invest in and want to take their time and give you advice and help. And if you're showing up and you're contributing back into the thing and you are being a part of the solution, people want to help you succeed. We love to see people succeed in this business. So just bring your sack lunch and show up to the game. And eventually someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, get in there for a play or two. Let's see what you can do. And if you prove yourself at that point, then it's just up to you. And knowing people can be an extremely effective way to make that happen. So Mike, I wholeheartedly agree with the idea that human networking is as important. Well, I'll put it as equal importance of skills, because skills are important.
Yeah.
So, all right, Sophia, I know you got questions.
I do.
We have answers.
Would you be opposed to me switching gears for just a second and sharing some comments that we got?
Sure. Let's hear them.
Go
You
for
guys
it.
have been working so hard answering questions. I want to give you a little boost, a little shout out from here in the comments. So Lauren from LinkedIn says, "This is so awesome. Mike Saunders in the house. Love all things cybersecurity. She is having a great time." So thanks for watching, Lauren. We love that you're here.
Thank you.
George from Zoom also wanted to mention that do not forget the soft skills. Most jobs are found by word of mouth, not by applications, which is kind of what you guys were talking about as far as networking and stuff. So great point, George. And Marlon from LinkedIn says, "Hey everyone, thanks so much for the presentation." So good to hear that people are watching and enjoying, and of course we love getting comments just as well as questions.
That's right.
I like
I'm glad you brought that in. Thank you.
Of course,
Sophia.
nice little confidence
Yeah.
boost. We're part of the way through the webinar here. Wanted to give you a little break, and just let you know we appreciate what you're doing.
We do.
But break time's over. We're gonna
Okay,
get
back
back
to
the
work.
questions now. Yeah, all business now. So this question comes to us from YouTube. Andres asks, "Can I start a cybersecurity career without practical experience in networking and internet protocols?" Dan and I kind of had a come to Jesus meeting about this a couple weeks ago because I was trying to do something and experiment with something, and I couldn't figure out why what I was doing wasn't working. And he was like, "Do you know why this isn't working?
Yeah.
It's because you don't know enough about this or this." And it's true. I don't have the background knowledge in like networking and internet protocols.
Yeah, it was
So
kind of funny. Yeah, she
was
probably
fun.
thought I was pissed at her, but
it's
it was
funny.
It was
It's
more
funny.
like I was pissed at, because there are people out there that think,
Mhm.
like I said before, you can kind of step over those rungs on the ladder And everybody's looking for a shortcut at the finish line. And I get it. We're hackers. That's what we're trying to do. We're always looking for the path of least resistance to get to where we're trying to go. But a lot of times that can be a very big disservice to you. And Mike, you tell me whether or not I'm off base on this. I've had people say, "Oh, I've run a script you've written," and it's sometimes I'll write things like very basic malware that does so that you can use them in a testing way. It's a basic implant that gives you a reverse shell or something. And will it get busted by Windows Defender? Something as simple as that. And if it does, how can you bypass that? Well, they'll say, "Oh, this isn't working. You did a demo and it worked for you, but it's not working for me. I'm getting a 404 error." Well, if you're getting a 404 error for the Python simple HTTP server that's serving it up, do you understand what that 404 error means? And they don't. And that's what causes a lot of their problems. Mike, am I off base on this, or do you see this as well?
There's a little bit of nuance to it. You're not off base. You do not need to understand the OSI model or whatever model you're going to look at super in depth. Like, you don't need to be able to quote RFCs and be able to reconstruct packets from hand. That's overkill. There's certain skill sets where you do need that. Certainly, having a much deeper understanding is key when you're doing IR and SOC work and you're analyzing packet captures. Not something I need to do every day, so I don't need to be a complete black belt packet ninja. But understanding how networking works, understanding the flow of communications when you're trying to set up a session. Brandon and I on my team were talking about WireGuard this morning, and he was talking about how WireGuard works and how it doesn't respond until it gets exactly the right set of packets that it's looking for. If you're trying to troubleshoot that and you were doing a Wireshark and you're looking at that and you say, well, nothing's coming back. Well, it's not supposed to, because that protocol doesn't give you anything back until you give it exactly the right words. Knowing how to analyze that, how to get to the point that you can capture the traffic and analyze that is definitely helpful to you. Not necessary in everything you do. Deep knowledge like web app testing probably don't need to have a deep level of IP protocols, because you're basically speaking HTTP, HTTPS, you're speaking over that transport channel. Most of the time that's going to be enough for you. But like Daniel said, I was like, oh, you got a 404. What does that mean? If you don't understand for web app testing, that set of language that's used to communicate and describe that particular protocol, you're going to have trouble. But you don't need to be I forget, is it CCNE, CCNA, something like that, Cisco certified. You don't need to be Cisco certified to get a start in testing. But
I love that you've been plugging the Network Plus, right? I feel like if you got Network Plus level networking understanding, you're doing pretty good. Like that is an excellent level of networking knowledge that you can use and utilize and lean on and do fine in a penetration testing role. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like having that, just understanding the flow of traffic across a network and understanding how things work. For instance, if you're trying to do some type of, let's say you want to use Responder, or you want to use Invade to capture something, but you're in one subnet and the system you're trying to poison is over in another subnet. Like if the thing that you're working on is a broadcast protocol, you need to understand that with broadcast protocols, it's not going to go outside of your broadcast domain. So if you're on a different subnet, that's not going to get back to you. It might be where they're speaking, but you're never going to hear it. If you don't understand that aspect of networking, then you're going to have a bad time. You're going to be frustrated not understanding what's going on. But again, you don't need to understand how to create those packets from scratch.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. Get those basics of networking under your belt. Yes, it's going to take you a minute to do, but it's not probably going to take as long as you think it's going to. And really, Sophia and I were kind of making this a statement today, just having conversation about security is really kind of a destination and not or a journey, not a destination, right? It's you're going to pick up new things, and like Mike said earlier about learning stuff that comes across because there's new technologies invented, new software, new hardware, new protocols, and things that happen to pop up all the time. And before you know it, they become standard things that we use and we take for granted. So just go ahead and grab those things that you know are basic foundational skills. And then when you come to the party, you can talk the same language. You can understand if I say something like port forwarding, you go, oh, yeah, I got you. Keep going. And I don't have to sit there and explain port forwarding for you to kind of be in on the conversation. You get that basic level of network understanding, then it's going to be very helpful for you as you move up the ladder into more in-depth, more technical, skilled technologies, because a lot of them are built upon each other. So it's just going to be super helpful. All right, Sophia, questions?
Plenty.
Give them
Always
to us.
questions.
Yeah.
Always questions. We've got a couple questions that have to do with AI. So from I think Frederick from Zoom and then Rim from YouTube had a similar question. So we'll go with Frederick's question. He asks, how do you see automation and AI coming into the cybersecurity industry? I feel like we talk about that every week.
Yeah.
It comes up all the time.
Yeah, the AI is getting really, really hot
Yeah.
right now. Everybody just loves it. And I might go ahead and use a 4-letter word, chat. Just say, I'll just leave it
Worried
there.
me for a second.
I was just thinking.
Well, it's you, so I just never know.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm trying to restrain myself. Trying very hard to restrain myself. I have some strong feelings about AI. Hi,
Just
Brandon.
like
on my
triggering
team.
Mike.
So how does AI come, into the security industry and automation? There are certainly places where I think it can come along and provide a benefit, and there are places where it can go wrong, and it hasn't been implemented well yet. Automation, definitely in the cybersecurity industry, you're already seeing automation has been a big piece. We try to automate as much work as possible. You can do automated analysis and triage in your incident response. So your endpoint agent sees something happen, and your network monitoring system sees something else happen, correlates those two, says, hey, something bad's happening on this host, and automatically puts it in a protected VLAN. Like that automation's already out there. Whether that's AI or machine learning, let's not split hairs, I guess. It's out there and that is coming. However, there are places where companies have had AI and it's gone wrong. We've seen plenty of examples of that. And you think about a few years ago, there was a research article put out called "Silence, I Kill You," where the Silence next generation machine learning AV component, that's actually what it was called, was easily bypassed. And the researchers found that they were able to get past it by basically taking the strings from a very popular game at the time that was getting blocked, and Silence said, I want this to be always good, because we cannot afford to be blocking this game. This is a bad look for us. So they looked at any binary that contained this certain set of strings and said, oh, you're this game, it's good to go. And so then the researchers were able to put those strings onto any binary. They took the top 500 malware samples at the time, and every one of them, Silence was like, hey, you're good to go. Not picking on Silence here, because this has happened to all kinds of vendors. It goes right, it goes wrong. It's moving the needle. It's getting better. I struggle to accept the I in AI right now. It's artificial automation. It's artificial scripting. It's not an intelligence to me at this point, but it certainly has the ability to make people more efficient. Even on my team, I've had my team tell me that they're trying to solve a problem. Hey, ChatGPT, can you give me a script to do blah? And it's very frequently wrong. And that's something that people need to understand, is that a lot of it's wrong. And coming back into that foundational knowledge, if you're just putting in something and then you don't understand why it's breaking, like, oh, I copied in the script and I ran it and it didn't work. The AI right now is generating scripts that don't work well a lot of the time. But you can take those scripts and massage them and tweak them and get them to a point that they actually can produce something useful. So I think it's definitely out there. It's going to make people more efficient. it's going to make attackers more efficient. It's going to make attackers more effective, but it's also going to make the defenders more effective as well. So I think it's got a place.
All right. Well, there you go. I doubt highly that Mike is joining up in his local transhumanist chapter anytime soon, but definitely AI, as so-called as it may be, is definitely a useful tool. It can be, as long as we know how to be able to work with it and use it and utilize it in a way that is useful. Otherwise, it's just a thing spitting out data. And if you don't know what to do with that data, then, or whether or not that data is wrong, because I
Yeah.
experienced the same thing where I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, give me some code, because I like to, I'm learning NimLang. I'm like, hey, give me this in Nim, and it's like an older version of Nim, and it doesn't work anymore because Nim has been updated, and Nim is constantly being updated. So I have to go, oh, okay, I see what you did there. Let me grab those pieces that I need and put them in new Nim speak, and now it works. So absolutely, you got to be able to. It is a tool. You got to learn how to use the tool and not just think, oh, it's gonna take over the world and take my job and all that.
I think I might have told you I asked ChatGPT. There was it's going around on Twitter. It was this viral, like, short little math equation, and people were getting different answers because they were using the order of operations or they weren't.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, let's put it into ChatGPT and see what it says. And it got the answer wrong. It did the equation. It was like, the answer is 9. The answer was 1. So when I corrected it and I was like, are you sure? Did you follow the order of operations? It was like, my mistake. Sorry, you're right. It's 1. And then I felt kind of superior because I was like, I beat the robot. I didn't beat the robot, but I thought it was funny that it was what looked like a simple equation and it got confused.
That's funny.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Not quite having it right code.
Yeah.
It was a 2 to 3 part equation. It was very simple. But anyway, moving on from ChatGPT, because I know it's your favorite subject, but we do have to move on. We have a question here from a Zoom user. This is specifically for Mike. This person asks, Mike, how do you dig under the hood and get your hands dirty and still have the world's cleanest fingernails?
That is someone on my team.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like somebody knows Mike.
I get, sometimes I need to distract myself. And so I'll be very frequently sitting in meetings doing this, and sometimes when I'm frustrated, I do that. It's my way of self-censoring.
Follow-up
so
question. Can we see the fingernails?
I mean,
they're just that beautiful manicure.
Impressive.
I mean, have you ever seen anything so lovely in your
My
life?
fingernails don't look like that.
It was like staring at the face of God.
You can see Daniel's got a tear forming in his
Yeah,
eye.
yes. Oh.
All right. Thank you for humoring me on
Yeah,
that.
that's a good one.
We have another question from a Zoom user. It's probably also going to make you laugh. Would you hire someone with no foundational knowledge, no certs, but really thinks pen testing is cool?
That's
well,
That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me.
If they think it's really cool, but they have no ability to, capitalize on that, no, because there has to be more there than that. And it may be that they have the understanding, the head tilt when they see something weird. Like, I can teach someone, if they were just like, oh, I think it's cool, but they don't have that mindset where they want to dig into something and understand. Like, I explain it sometimes, like, I see a door that's shut, I want to know what's on the other side. When I see a button that says do not push, I want to push it to see what happens. I want to know why is that warning there. People who have that kind of curiosity, we can teach them the technical skills most of the time, and they could be effective at it. My wife is not a technical person at all, but I can explain to her situations and she's like, wait a second, that's not right, is it? I was like, absolutely, it is not right. I could teach you the technical skills. She has no desire to learn it, but you could teach that. But just thinking it's cool, that's not quite enough. There needs to be a little bit more there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Mike on that. It is great that you have a passion, but now it's time to demonstrate that passion by doing things like CTFs, building tools, putting them in GitHub, going to conferences. You have to put something on display because there's a lot of people that are just flash in the pan interested. And if it's going to be worth my time or Mike's time or anybody else's time that has that experience or can hire or bring you on as an intern or give you an over-the-shoulder ride along or whatever, if it's going to be worth it for them, then they got to see that passion other than just like, pen testing school, bro. Yes, it is. So is chili. It doesn't mean I'm going to go become a cook and be the greatest chili cook in the world, But if all of a sudden I started buying herbs and spices and meats and beans and things and throwing it all together and doing it constantly, now I've proven that I don't just randomly think chili is cool. I'm really passionate about it, and I want to get into it. So that's the next step. Think it's cool, start learning stuff, start doing stuff with it, and demonstrating it to the rest of the world. Okay. You got some more, Mike?
Nope, I'm good.
Chili's good. Yeah, he agrees. Chili's amazing.
Like a regular ratatouille over there. So we have another question from LinkedIn. We get this question a lot. Gloria asks, how old is too old for a career in information security?
147.
Exactly
on the day that you turn
Yeah.
147, you're done.
Dead. Dead is too old.
Dead
Other
is
than
too
that, you know, it's simply a matter of being willing to learn and being in a state of being teachable. Way back when, early on in my career, I started out as a Mac repair tech. Like, that's my first actual tech job. And I used Macs, I fixed Macs, I taught people how to use Macs. And I had this family that they finally said, Mom, we're not paying all these long distance bills. So I'm dating myself here. We're not paying all these long distance bills all the time. Like, you need to learn how to email. And, you know, Lois she was well into her 80s. She was well into her 80s. And they bought her this iMac and they hired me to teach her how to use a computer. I am not the world's most patient person. So this was really a challenge for me. But what was really cool about it was, once I taught her that, you know, you're not going to break the computer. There's nothing you can do short of like dumping water in it or smashing it with a hammer that I can't fix. Like, just, who cares if it makes an error? If it pops up an error, it makes it beep. Like, pay attention. What does that error mean? And then, like, think about what that means and don't be scared of it. And when I come back next week, I want you to teach me something that you learned. And every week I would have some lessons for her. And then I would say, I want you to teach me something that you learned next week. And sometimes she taught me things that, like, a shortcut for something that I didn't even know existed. So she was in her 80s. And that same mindset of being willing to learn and willing to be teachable and receive information and being curious is what made her successful at being able to use that tool to communicate with her family. It's that same mindset that will make you effective in cybersecurity: being willing to learn, being willing to be in a state of teachability, and being curious. If you have those things, we can teach you. What I will say, as I have gotten older for myself, that when I was 20 something and early 30s, I'd be up all night hacking, like, oh, I'll get curious about this, and then I'm going to hack on it. I'm working on the script, and all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I got to go to bed for a little bit because I got to work tomorrow or later today. Now, a little bit older, I don't have quite as much energy as I used to. And this requires a lot of investment in learning. Not trying to put you off on it and not trying to discourage you. I think that you can learn at any age. It's just a matter of understanding what you're getting into, that this isn't, I don't think that you can get into this and be effective just as a casual job. I think, there are people who can, but to really be successful, it's not a casual relationship.
Mike Saunders, bringing people together, one MacBook at a time. That's true. And absolutely true. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly, Mike, is that it doesn't matter what age you are. No one cares, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
No one cares. You could be 86 years old. If you're passionate about this and you start learning and you want to do this and you got it in you to, do the work that it takes to kind of get up to speed and put it out there. If you can do it, we need you. We want you. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter, at least in my book or anybody's book that I've ever met, how old you are. You got the skills, you got the passion for it, you got the aptitude for it. If so, tag, you're it. Get in the game,
Yep.
right? So, All right, Sophia, I know we got more questions. Let's go to it.
I want to give a real quick shout out to somebody in our LinkedIn chat. His name's Richard. He says, I'm pushing 50 and just got on an apprenticeship, but I have the mindset and the curiosity. I just think that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's go, Richard.
Good for
That's
you.
cool. That's awesome. So, yeah, you're right. You're never too old and never too young to start either. Because
Nope.
I mean, I'm a child over here, and I'm like at least trying to learn.
Yeah,
So
she's picking
there's
stuff up all the time.
yeah, there's no right or wrong age as long as you got the drive, right?
Yeah.
I do have another question from Wayne from Zoom. Wayne wants to know, have either of you tried Kali Purple yet?
Oh, I have not had a chance to get at Kali Purple. It just released like
2 days
2 days
or
ago?
something.
Yeah. Have you had a
Yeah.
chance to spin it up there, Mike?
Other than seeing tweets about Kali and it being purple, like that is beyond. I've had other things to focus on this week, so I've not had a chance to take a look at it. I'm excited about seeing what it has to offer, but
Yeah.
don't know anything about it.
I'm in the exact same boat. I'm looking forward to maybe this weekend, get it spun up, just kind of waltz through it a little bit and play around with it just to see what all the hullabaloo is about. This lovely new Kali Purple version that's out there for everybody to check out. So we're going to make that our last question for today because we are running out of time. But Mike, I want to give you an opportunity to say goodbye and let people know how they can check out anything that you're into or projects you got coming up. Tell people maybe a little bit about Red Siege and some stuff that they offer that they can get their hands on and start injecting themselves into that part of the community. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks to everyone who sent in questions. This has been a great conversation. I've had a great time. As I said, I am the principal consultant with Red Siege. We're at Red Siege on Twitter. I personally am at Hardwater Hacker, and not hardware, Hardwater Hacker. And you can find me there. You'll find tweets about information security, places where I'm going to be speaking, and new blogs that I've written, as well as lots of pictures of my cat and my hiking and fishing adventures. You can get together on our Discord. We would love to have you there. It's a great community. I believe it's redsiege.com/Discord. And we also have something called the Wednesday Offensive. Wednesday Offensive is a conversation just like this. It's 30 minutes, no slides, just talk with people who are doing interesting things in information security, usually with an offensive flavor, but sometimes we have some defensive people in there too. redsiege.com/WEDOFF, I believe that is the right link. We would love to have you there. 30 minutes. We start at the bottom of the hour. We end at the top of the hour. It's fast. Other than that, if you are in the South Dakota area, you're going to be at DakotaCon later this month. I'll be speaking there. And next month, I will be speaking at KernelCon in Omaha. And if you are there, please come up and say hello. I will have stickers, and I don't want to take them home with me. So other than that, I think that about covers it. Unless you want to talk about a pen test, you need a pen test, assume breach, red team, phishing engagements, web app, all that stuff. We do it. We'd love to get you a statement of work for it, and we'd love to work with you. So contact us at Red Siege.
Awesome. Mike, thanks so much, brother, for stopping by, hanging out with us today, answering questions, and just being an all-around awesome dude. We really appreciate your time. We know it's valuable. So thank you. And thank you
so much for having me.
Hey, man, anytime. If you ever want to do this again, you know how to get a hold of me. Just hit me
Absolutely.
up, and I guarantee we'll be reaching back out to you sometime in the near future because this is just
Looking
dang
forward
fun
to
to
it.
do. All right, Mike, have a good one. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to give it back to Sophia because, well, she likes to close the show.
Well, I was going to say thank you, but I think you said it enough for the both of
Yeah.
us. So I'll go ahead and I'll leave that out. But before we go, I do want to tell you about our IT Pro TV subscriptions. You have a couple different options. You can get a personal membership that's going to provide complete access to all the IT Pro TV courses with or without practice exams, as well as virtual labs. But if you are part of an IT team, you're going to want to check out the IT Pro TV business page that offers a tour of the Pro Portal used to maximize your team's investment in training. And of course, Daniel is a generous man, so if you sign up for a personal membership, Daniel's going to give you 30% off. All you have to do is enter the promo code Daniel30. That's Daniel30. And Technado fans, you can join us next Tuesday, March 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a live stream of Technado's 300th episode. I'll be there, Dan will be there, Don will be there. It's great. Fans can join online. You can submit cameos. You could appear in the episode. So check out technato.com for more information on that. And we'll hope to see you there. That's going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to that. But until then, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. And we'll see you back here soon on All Things Cybersecurity. Have a great day.